What is up, YouTube? My name is Trinity and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. Today we are going to be talking about a very puzzling case that has never officially been solved. There is kind of a consensus on what probably happened, but it's never officially been proven. Today we are going to be talking about the puzzling disappearance of Cynthia Anderson. Now, at the time of her abduction, Cynthia, or Cindy, was 20 years old and she lived in Toledo, Ohio, and she worked as a legal secretary. Now, her abduction happened on August 4th of 1981. However, going back a year prior, multiple people have said that she was having strange nightmares for a full year before this happened about being abducted from her home and murdered. And these really troubled Cynthia when she would share them, mainly with her mother. But because they were just dreams, and dreams aren't really concrete evidence of anything that's going to happen, her mother just kind of tried to, calm her down and assure her that she was okay and she was safe. But she was having these dreams for a full year prior to her actual disappearance. So I don't really believe in psychics and mediums and stuff like that, but that's a really weird detail that has always stuck with me about this case. So like I said, she was a legal secretary, and on August 4th of 1981, the day of her abduction, she went to work just like any other day. Now, Cynthia worked earlier in the day than her other co-workers. I assume as a secretary, she was doing things like picking up the mail, returning phone calls, taking messages for people, that sort of thing. But because she was alone in the building every morning, she would work with the doors locked. Now, her co-workers came in at noon that day. I assume that was the normal time for them to come in, and at first they didn't think anything was wrong because Cynthia had gotten the mail, the AC was on, the doors were locked when they came in, but Cynthia was not there. Now, there was no sign of a struggle. Like I said, the doors were locked. Her purse and personal belongings were gone. The only thing of hers that was left was a book that she had been reading the last couple of days. So the weird thing about the book that I don't think really means anything, but people found it very strange, was it was flipped open on the floor to a scene depicting a very graphic abduction. The only guess that authorities could come up with was that Cynthia had been abducted from the building, likely by someone who had a key since, the building was locked. But the weird thing is that the panic button that was in Cynthia's building that connected to the business next door to let them know if something was going on wasn't touched. And it was estimated that this abduction probably happened around 10 a.m. because no phone calls had been answered since then. Now, when her family was asked if they had any reason why Cynthia would just disappear out of nowhere, like could she have gone willingly, they said no. She had been planning on resigning from the business in a couple of weeks because she planned to go to a Bible college with her boyfriend. She was raised in a very strict religious home, and nothing really seemed to be amiss with her. Her father said that she'd seen her wearing a bit more makeup and dieting more recently, but I can't think of that being anything related to why she would have been abducted. Now, like I said, foul play was suspected. It was suspected that somebody abducted her and likely killed her, or something bad happened to her, but it could never be proven. It's very hard to prove that someone was murdered without producing a body. It's not impossible, but they really didn't have a lot of leads to go on. They investigated a few different avenues despite this. One was Larry Mullins, who was a client of Cindy's. He said the last day that he saw her, she had gotten a phone call, and while listening to this phone call, she looked very distressed, very scared. And when he asked what that was all about, she kind of just frustratedly said, she's been getting phone calls like that a lot, but never elaborated on what was being said or who was on the other side. Now, another strange detail was that near her workplace, there was some sort of sign, I assume like spray paint or something, that said, "I love you, Cindy, by GW." Now, Cindy had noticed this message 10 months before she went missing, but it wasn't taken down until 6 months after she had first noticed it, and then only a couple weeks later, somebody, assuming it was the same person, had redone the sign. Now, it's not definitive that this Cindy being talked about in the message was Cynthia, but it was right next to her business, so there's a good chance that it could have been. Police were unsure if it was related, but they did interview a lot of people with the initials GW, one of which being a maintenance man that did have keys to the building, but they couldn't really find any evidence connecting the two, so that kind of went cold. In September, the next month, there was an anonymous tip called in that Cindy was being held captive in the basement of a white house that was owned by a family who owned the house next door, and they were out of town and she was being held captive by the son of the family. When investigators pressed for the address or just more details in general, the person ended the call. They did call back, but didn't say anything and hung up again. This unfortunately didn't lead anywhere. In November of 1995, a grand jury indicted 9 people on charges related to a drug distribution ring in Toledo. 2 of these people were Cindy's bosses. Their names were Richard Neller and Jose Rodriguez Jr. Police announced later that same month that they believe Neller had murdered Cindy, likely because she had overheard some details about his drug trafficking ring with Jose, and they decided that she was too much of a liability for them to keep alive. While Rodriguez was on trial, a witness claimed to have heard him admit to the murder of Cindy in order to send a message to Richard Neller for inadequately representing him in a previous court case. But to my knowledge, if I'm wrong, please correct me down in the comments below, but to my knowledge, it has never been proven that these men have definitely killed her. It's just an assumption made because it kind of fits. Maybe they were at the office that morning, or she had overheard something in the days leading up to her disappearance that she wasn't supposed to hear, and they decided to get rid of her, unfortunately. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think it was her employers? Do you think they should have looked into the maintenance man a bit more? Or do you think there was some truth to that anonymous tip? Or do you have your own theory? Be sure to leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It really helps push my videos out to other like-minded individuals that enjoy spooky content just like you and me. And if you're a fan of true crime content, be sure to check out my true crime playlist listed down below. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon so you'll be notified next time I upload. And finally, if you have any suggestions for what videos you'd like to see next, or if you'd like to start a conversation about what you think happened to Cindy or anything in this video, be sure to leave it down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.